Shalom, it's Jeremiah Yakol. Before we start off, I want to give praises to the Father and the Son. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakakadash. Yahweh is who the people ignorantly call God, and Yahushua is who the people ignorantly call Jesus. You so-called blacks, so-called Hispanics, so-called Native Americans, you are the Hebrew Israelites. And as of today, Israel just attacked Iran. And these two nations, have a long history of their sworn enemies. And why this happened is you look at the nuclear deal. The nuclear deal is basically the US gives Iran money if they change their uranium from the type of uranium that can be used for nuclear weapons into civilian, nuclear energy. And Iran has yet to sign that deal. And something that a lot of US leaders, said countless times, that Iran having a nuclear weapon is a no-go. And that we know that America, aka Babylon the Great, is losing its world hegemony, is losing its spot as the top nation in this world. And people and nations that are on the downfall become desperate, and they will do anything to not lose, their power, their hegemony. It says Israel has carried out strikes on nuclear sites in Iran. See, they're trying to stop them from getting a nuclear weapon. Somebody might ask, why don't Israel or the US want Iran to have a nuclear weapon? It's because they know that they're 1 and 2 on the bulletin board to potentially get hit with Iranian nukes. And it says Israel has declared a state of emergency. This Iranian state TV said residential areas in Tehran were hit and children were among those killed. And I saw another article on Twitter saying that a lot of top Iranian officials got killed in this strike. So we know that last time when Israel and Iran was going at it, Iran just sent ballistic missiles and drones towards Israel. So this time their response might be greater, man. We just have to wait and see. And why the US would be on Iran's top list to hit with a nuke is because if you remember back in 2020, the US did airstrikes, killing Iran's, top general. And I'm pretty sure, those Iranians didn't forget about that. And if you, look over the internet, you see, even though these videos from a couple years ago, when he got killed, it was people in the streets of Iran chanting, death to America and things of that nature. So, that shows you how the Iranian people, feel about America. They don't like them. And, all these things are happening because we are in the midst of World War III. How can you say, how can you not say that we are not in the midst of World War III when you have two major military powers, going at it? And a month ago, Palestine and India were going at it. You know, two other, top world military powers. So, all these things that we are seeing and are happening are very big events and should not be taken lightly. Because, in a snap of a finger, any minute now, something very big could happen that could change, people lives, not only here in the U.S., but, also in Iran and Israel. Because we're just speaking hypothetically. Let's say Iran already has a nuke. They could potentially, nuke Israel. And if Iran nuked Israel, do you think the U.S. would just sit back and not get involved? No. They're going to try to come protect their fellow Edomite comrades, the Amalekites. And this is a situation to definitely keep watch on. And, see what happens as time and the days pass. Because we are so deep in the end, anything can happen. We are not in the times of just peace anymore. Even though it may seem like it, we are not in those times. And if you've been keeping up with the news here in the U.S., a lot of protests have been going on. And, I believe that even though these protests serve a purpose, that they're a distraction of what's really happening on the world stage. Like, since these protests started, you know, Russia is doing an offensive in Ukraine. Ukraine has been attacking Russia. And even though the Moabites and the Japhites, Slovakia, the Ammonites, are quiet right now, soon Moab is going to be going there having a war of their own. And a lot of people may have questions about why are these things happening? Why are all these wars popping up? Because we are in the last days, the end of this current world, the end of this current kingdom. So we finna get into some precepts. This is Second Edges 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. Woe means destruction. So it says, woe to the world. I mean, destruction is coming to the whole world. There's destruction going on in Russia right now. There's destruction going on in Ukraine right now. Destruction going on in Gaza right now. Destruction going on in Iran right now. That's just talking about the things from war. It's a lot of natural disasters going on around the world also. Multiple different volcanoes is destroying land. You have earthquakes causing destruction. So this destruction is on every side, from wars and from what they try to call natural disasters. But really, natural disasters are plagues also. This is Isaiah 54:16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coal in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. So, all this technology that these nations have militarily, the Lord gave it to them. You look at the nuclear weapons. Robert Oppenheimer may think he came up with that technology, but he just got used as a vessel. And all these different missiles, technologies, these drones, the Lord gave these heathens this technology to further destroy their selves. And to destroy themselves. And if you look at it, a lot of the major wars that have been, going on have been heathen versus heathen. They're getting pinned against each other for their own destruction. And you look at verse 3, it says, "And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink." So, this is just two examples of things that happen to our people. And this is why these heathens are killing each other and bombing up each other's cities, because they are getting recompense for the things that they have done to the Hebrew Israelites. And keep in mind, the average person can barely remember every detail about their current life, their current regeneration that they are in. They can't remember things from their former generations. A lot of these heathens that are getting blown up in these wars are heathens that's getting destroyed in a lot of these different ways. They have did things to Israelites in the past that they can't remember, and they're getting judged for it in this current life. Verse 4, "Yeah, and what have ye done? And yeah, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon, and all the coasts of Palestine? will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. And Tyre and Zidon are, African, will be known as so-called African people today, not the Africans that are Israelites, but the Africans that are heathens, like the ones that do all that weird stuff. They'll be having all them weird marks and stuff all in their face and their body. They're just weird. And even they're getting judged. So if you look at it, all these nations are getting judged for the things they have done to the chosen people, the Israelites. Verse 6. The children of Judah, the children also of Judah, and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. This is what happened to us. When you think of the Grecians, you think of white people. But, their true name is Edomites. They descend from Esau. Verse 7. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And these heathens, they're getting judged right now, but they have been getting judged for a while. If you look at Africa, they always deal with a lot of famines and stuff like that. A lot of them people that's being affected in that famine is Hamites, Africans. And even if you look at the Middle East, so they try to call it, it's always chaos, death, and destruction going on there. And what are the people that are mainly affected from that destruction in the Middle East? The Arabs, the Middle Eastern people, they sold our people too. So, just recompense is being handed out. Judgment is being handed out to these heathens. As time goes on, man, this judgment is only going to increase. I saw an article today, and it said 242 people died in a plane crash from India. Seems like as of late, a lot of people dying at one time type events is happening more and more frequent. Now, I only expect more events like that to take place, because we are in the end of this current world. The scripture don't say woe to the world and them that dwell therein for no reason. This is literal. And majority of the people that's in the world, they can't see that we're in the end, just like how the masses during the flood couldn't see that they were in the end. They didn't want to believe they didn't want to believe to that rain start falling and flooding. Verse 8. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, and they shall sell them to the Sabeans, to a people far off, for the Lord has spoken it. And just like, how Hebrew Israelites were, slaves, handmaids like that to the heathens, the heathens are going to be slaves and handmaids to the Hebrew Israelites. And that's, righteous recompense. You think that you can do things to the only nation that the Lord cares about, and those same things don't get turned back upon your own head. This world is being judged. Quite frankly, everybody that's on the earth right now, you're either here to be saved from the calamities that's going to be going on, or you're here to be destroyed or be consumed by these calamities. It's a hard truth, a hard pill to swallow. But when it comes to the scriptures, you have to swallow and digest, the hard pills, the hard, bitter truths. And you can't deal with feelings, regarding the truth in the scriptures. Verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war. Wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. And these heathens is at war, preparing war for each other right now. Pretty sure it's Iranian Guards officer right now loading up them drones, loading up them weapons, them missiles that they gonna send at Israel, the fake Israel, because that the country that's named Israel was created in 1949. And they just slapped that name Israel up there to try to cause confusion. The real Israel is here in the Americas. It's a lot of deception that these heathens have did to try to throw off prophecy and to try to confuse you. And the people that are in Israel right now, even though they say that they are from the tribe of Judah, themselves Jewish, because the suffix ish means to pretend, and they're pretending to be us. but they ain't us. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. That's what these heathens are doing right now, man. Getting ready their instruments of war, recruiting new soldiers to the battle, whether it be in Russia, Ukraine, Iran, Israel, China, wherever, man. All these nations are gearing up and preparing for war. Because even if they wanted to not fight, they would get forced to fight because prophecy has to be fulfilled. You know, it's clear and evident that we are in the end, what people call the last days. And you know, this is why all these things are happening. Because the Lord is dishing out judgment and recompense. And you know, seeing that it's a lot going on, it's a lot of events and articles that you could, you know, do a video on. Because that's what learning this truth is about, to push it and spread your knowledge to other people so that they can do the same. But with that, hope this lesson was edifying through spirit and power of Yahweh Shim Shah. All praises unto Yahweh Shim Shah. Until next